Okay, so clearly there are lots of different groups and denominations and so forth that point to the early church fathers to help, to as reference points, say for their belief system and things. That all of this starts getting really complicated and kind of confusing because when you have really diverse groups pointing back to, oh, it's in the patristics, the early church writings that this and this and this, and then a different group that says the opposite thing says the same, points back. Like it gets really confusing. So the question is it still worth reading your early church writings? And if so, like why should we care? And like where should we start if we want to start reading this stuff? Because I've started to, and it's really overwhelming. I mean, there's just so much there. Where do I start? And it's easy for this stuff to get kind of hijacked by different denominations and schools of thought and so forth. Anyway, speak into that.
And the main point there being, if I'm hearing you right, that if you're hoping to make a unified church out of reading the fathers, that may not be the best solution. It can actually be divisive.
Well, yeah, or maybe just confusing is the word that comes to my mind because I see it used. I mean, you're seeing this in the comments that we're getting, right? You know, oh, well, clearly you should believe in infant baptism if you read the early church. Whereas the next person that I might talk to says, oh, no, clearly not if you read the early church writings. It starts getting really confusing. And so then it's just like, I don't even know where to start. I'm not even going to read these because it's just too much to untangle. And that can discourage people from ever engaging with these writings to begin with. So I guess what I'm saying is make a case for like why should we care about these writings and why you think people should read them.
Yeah. Well, I hope in saying this that I don't diminish them too much, the fathers. Um, but I could have learned at first maybe see this in terms of encounter. And in my work with Irenaeus, it started off, I just wanted to engage his ideas because I had a project. But toward the end of it, I got to know him a bit more as a person, as a man who turned himself in to some really challenging times in church history, especially with his work with the Valentinian Gnostics. Um, and I began to appreciate him and admire him and hope to learn from him in the same way that I would from somebody that I appreciate because of the kind of life, that they've lived out. So maybe that's a starting point to move through that confusion. Say, who are these men? How did they respond? Because all of them had a story to tell. All of them had a life. For the fathers, it included adversity and difficulty, and there's usually something there that's worth imitating. Now, the second thing I might just suggest is, um, again, watch for their intent. Part of why they're recognized as a church father frequently isn't just because they are really sharp, which they were, or really capable and competent, which they tended to be. It's also because they loved the church and they loved Jesus. Okay, so our response to them, if we're going to be willing to cherry pick just to add a little padding to our argument, that might be exactly violating their intention. Okay.
Yeah.
You've got to look past not just mine them for my own historicist project, but also to see toward their heart a little bit, which again is not unmixed. These men live lives of repentance frequently. But to ask the question, how is it, like Paul would suggest for us, how is this expedient for the building of Christ's body? And that becomes the primary question.